welcome to each and every one of you. My microphone is too far away. Let me just... do this. Completely forgot about that. My apologies. Hopefully this sounds better than it did a few seconds ago. Right, there we go. Let me know in the chat down below if you can hear me, if it's all good, and if it's all working. So there we are. Okay, dokes, there's some questions going around in terms of the Discord server. Now, as you know, I like to run during these sessions a creative writing thing where you just kind of get inspired to think of things in a different way. I thought about what I wanted to do. You get to participate in the creative writing journey and process and kind of get your mind into maybe a different way. And it's an exercise that is absolutely a blast to do if you have space in which to do it. And I don't think that the chat within Twitch or within YouTube, depending on which one you are joining, I don't think that is the right place to do it. So I went, okay, cool. Let's then drop it into Discord. So you can still do it in Twitch, you can still do it in the YouTube chat, but if you do have Discord, head on for the Discord, join our Discord, and you'll see that there is a channel there that you can join. I see a lot of people over to the Discord server. That's discord.gg/greatgm. Sign up here in Japan. The owner's a friend of ours. They're like, here, have a shirt, because we're talking about the shirt as well. Yes, shirt was bought for me. There's a new company that's opened. We're doing a whole bunch of things. As you know, we like to have a lot of fun on the channel, and it is all about your questions, and I think it's pretty fun. So, right. Today's show, your role-playing, your experiences, and the like, as well as doing some stuff which you might not normally do. So let's just bring up, he said with caution, let's just bring up what we should be talking about today. YouTube videos to watch. I have 4 YouTube videos that I watched this week that I think are of value for you guys to have a look at and think about. We've got the creative writing development. Like I said, Discord is what you want to join if you really want to be able to participate in this easily. I think you can still participate. Don't worry if you're not part of Discord. So there you go. And now a review of my RPG sessions. We can do that if you like. I'm running at the moment. The only one that you guys are aware of that I'm running is the Ghosts of Saltmarsh game, so we can talk about that a little bit if you like. No spoilers, please, for some of those that haven't yet caught up with the episodes. Random chaos always happens. Your questions are always important, and we will try and to get through to those as best we can. Thank you for that. And Creative Showcase, I might well, I say crazy, it's not really crazy. So Alan, yes, Alan has done a very good demonstration of how you should ask questions. Capital caps lock questions in Creative Showcasing whilst you're doing the creative writing challenge. But you never know. That's what's so crazy. Good evening, Guy. Well, good evening to you, Alan Robinson. In front of your question, and then you can ask your question. Ask it again, because sometimes I don't get there. I do see that there's people screaming and shouting. And if I forget it, please, 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 please repost. And so there are all sorts of things going on, and let's get down to it. We're going to do some questions now. I have a certain goddess, Jenks. Welcome to the Ginger Ninja. Thank you for joining us. Nice to have you on the stream for once. Yeah, probably for about 11 minutes, and then we're going to move on to some cool stuff. So let's see. Question. Do I use sand, dirt, or grass for the ground around or inside the walls? First question I see is White Tiger 225, making a Japanese-inspired temple in Dungeon Fog. I ask because pictures show all sorts. Well, I see that Adrian is back with us this week. Thank you for that. Very, very, very kind and cunning of you. Green at the time. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Let's see. Let's go back a bit. Okay. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. That's where the donation came from. Let me go back there and just have a look and see what I missed because I was on the wrong screen. So to the question of the Japanese surrounds in terms of Japanese temple, the Japanese term for a temple is ginja, or jinja, I should say, jinja. Not to be confused with ginger, but jinja. Most of them are surrounded by. And that's just foot traffic. There's so much foot traffic that's definitely something that they want to keep. Stone, paved, lots of pavings and lots of stone. That is one of the things that I have noticed is quite remarkable about Japan, is that where there is grass, usually you're not allowed onto the grass. Keep clean and keep growing, not get destroyed. But yes, the surroundings should be gravel or stone, think Zen garden type of stuff. Right, so more questions. But usually it's just stone. It's simpler and easier to keep track of. Dragon Queen's Lair. How do you discourage metagaming? Okay, that you don't discourage metagaming. What you do is you discourage using metagaming in the game all the time. We are playing a game where we're sitting around a table inventing stories and that sort of thing. We have a whole bunch of... It's a very complicated question, so the way I'm going to answer that is by saying stuff that we know about and that we're aware of. So the question is not how do you avoid metagaming, the question is how do you make getting in a game as metagaming? In other words, we are all metagaming. Is you might know the right thing to do, but your character doesn't. So how do you get your character onto the same page? Metagaming work within the narrative structure within the game itself. So I often encourage my players that you are without breaking the defines of your character. So let's say, for example, you're playing a character who doesn't have a very high intelligence, but let's say that you have one. And you've worked out the riddle as a player, but as the character you haven't. So do you metagame and say that your character has a moment of inspiration, or I read a book once, meanwhile your character's only got a low intelligence? No, I don't think that's the right way to go about it. I think that's a very weak way of covering up metagaming. I think the right way to do it would be to have the character that might trigger in the other players who do have high intelligence. Oh, hang on a moment, octopus. Oh, that means that the answer isn't. Look at the drawing and say, oh, it reminds me of a octopus. In the hopes, that's a very short answer. I have done videos on that, so if you want more extensive ones, you can find metagaming, eight-legged god or whatever. So use the metagaming, but use it in a way that creates better story and that encourages the other players to get to the solution that you have already got to. That good metagaming bad is the name of the two videos that we talk about when we look there. Right, just Cyberpunk game this coming week. Awesome. Any advice to really get into the mindset? Next question. I love questions. Lindark Knight says, running my first very near future. The very near future. If you look at what we are doing, because it is, if you think about it, us trying to predict the currently in where we've got electric cars and you charge your car and there's int for it. Also, hello. Well, hello to begin with. In terms of Cyberpunk is a really awesome setting. We are Cyberpunk as far as those who are living in the 1980s are living. So when we talk Cyberpunk, we talk holographic displays that appear in front of us. We talk flying cars, internet everywhere, and we talk to our phones and they talk back to us. We talk grungy, gravelly, neon pinks and that kind of stuff. If you've ever walked around Tokyo at night, it's pretty much Cyberpunk. So how do you get into the mindset? Well, a very quick and dirty way to do it would be to watch a bunch of films that are based on that. Obviously the latest Blade Runner film, you can look at that. The other one is what's it called? Scandinavian actor from True Blood in it. He plays a mute character. So there's Mute, I think it's called Mute, someone can correct me. 100 experience points for finding out the name of that film, where he plays a mute character and he's in love with Mute. It's this really cool one with the girlfriend, and there's this whole long convoluted thing. So anyway, I would look at films to kind of submerge yourself in that, but also allow, when you think about how far cell phones have progressed in the last 10 years, roll back to 2000 and allow your mind to wander free and think about what technology are we going to have in 10 years time. When 9, cell phones were getting there. I think I had the Note 1, the Galaxy. They've now changed. So yeah, there you go. There you go. Lots of different things to think about in terms of Cyberpunk. Don't go too crazy. I've just finished writing a book, Note 1, which was a tablet. Tablets were still the craze back then. Little games. I was commissioned to write the campaign setting for Tokyo. And in that, I was wandering the Cyberpunk book. It's a setting for Tokyo. For Carbon, I always forget the date after that, but Carbon, it's a new role-playing system that's going to be coming out shortly from Dragon Turtle. Around going, okay, well, what is Tokyo like now, and what is the future like? And it's interesting to see back and said, okay, no, that's too sci-fi. We don't necessarily want that. Pull it back a little bit, make it a little bit more. See how when I was projecting too far into the future, the owners of Dragon Turtle came more now. So I was writing really, which is what Tokyo is like now, with just some tweaks. And they're like, that's absolutely perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Next question. Let's see. Jude Brill says, how do you go about creating a town populated with... So there we go. Right, my absolute pleasure. I love questions. That's what this is all about. Right, yokai, Japanese, mainly yokai, Japanese monsters, pretty much. Thanks for reading this, sir. If you are reading this. Monsters. A town populated by them, I would imagine, would operate very similarly to how a town in Japan operates on a regular basis. What is interesting about Japan, and I experienced this quite literally yesterday, is Japan is a country and a people where the people are incredibly lawful. It puts them at odds with themselves. So I have a tattoo of a dragon on my arm, but they are incredibly good, and ironically, it puts them at odds with themselves. So I have a tattoo of a dragon on my arm. I got that many years ago for various reasons. And we wanted to go to an onsen day spa, whatever you want to call it. It's a tradition here in Japan. It's something that you do when you come to Japan, which is a public bath sort of thing. It's like a sauna, rock pools, natural spring. Okay, fair enough. That has its origins in the Yakuza and the like. And I'm going to get to my point about how do you do the city. They have a rule that you are not allowed to go into them if you have a tattoo. AP sells tattoo covers, which are like these latex patches which you can put on and it hides your tattoo in a short bit. So Amazon.co.j, and that is how you get around it. You cover up your tattoo so that it just looks like it's a lawful good, lawful neutral, a piece of blank skin basically, and then you can go in. So we go to this very fancy onsen, and we get there, and the lady says, no tattoos. So me, being the good, neutral, lawful good, I don't know, whatever you want to describe it, I said, no, I've got a cover. And I showed her the cover. Well, we were thrown out. Well, not thrown out. She just said, no, you can't come in. You have a tattoo. You tell her that you had a tattoo. And I said, well, because I have a tattoo, but I have the patch. And as we were leaving, my partner said, why did you... The patch is covering the tattoo. And he said, yes, but legally, her operational rules state that if you have a tattoo, you're not allowed into the onsen, regardless of whether it's covered up or not. So I said, but then why did I buy the patches to cover it up in the first place if they are completely ineffective? And he said, no, the patch covers the tattoo. No, because at that moment, the tattoo is covered up. So if they ask, do you have any tattoos? You simply answer, no, that you have a tattoo, but they will also know that you've covered it up. And then once you're in the onsen, people will notice that you have a cover. They will, with goodness. The goodness is, we don't care. You have a tattoo, but you've covered it up, so obviously you're not the evil. So there's this bizarre legality monster that is associated with those who have tattoos. So we're allowing you into our space. That's the good side. The lawful side says, well, the law says that if you have one, whether it's covered up or not is irrelevant. You simply have to not participate. So it's an interesting space. And I imagine that that is how these would work. That's how that village would work, that city would work. You would have these rules that the city lives by, but underneath that, there is a whole different way of operating. And I don't think that it'd be that there is a sub-layer of, it doesn't matter that we're all monsters. We are living here, and in order to have the safety of community, in order to have the benefits of community, we have to respect one another. So that there's an evil sub-layer, because certainly there can be. I think the village, we're not going to steal your firstborn, we're going to go outside. So there would be that sort of, we're not going to eat your souls, we will eat the souls of people outside of respect. I think that's how I would look at it. So think about that. Right. Some conversation happening about dwarves and loopholes. Interesting. Perlin's Attacks says, question, hello from Italy. Hello from Italy. Right. I'd like to create a campaign from buongiorno. Is that Italian? Buongiorno? I think it is. Anyway, my step-uncle's Italian, I should know. Other GMs come in. How to make players enjoy histories they never liked. It's kind of bizarre. No. Interesting. Okay, you want to create a campaign where campaigns from other GMs come in. All right. So linking other GMs' campaigns into your own can be easy, or it can be a way that you would work if you were adopting, let's say, Star Trek. It'd be difficult, and you should always ask for permission to do so before you do that. That's the important thing. Linking them together can simply be linking parts of history, names, locations. Basically, if you were playing a Star Trek game, effectively you're playing in somebody else's campaign. In terms of your question, how do you get players to write their histories and things based on that? Give them a small location, but you're running it yourself. So I'm not entirely sure to work from. Give them that primer. I did a video a couple of weeks ago, last week I think. Give them that primer where they have half a page of history and that's it. Don't try and get them to remember more. Don't try and get them to do more. Keep it simple. Keep it fairly straightforward. Z10 says, of the published 5th edition adventures, for example, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which did you enjoy the most and which did you find disappointing? Well, Z10, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. In my many years of, doesn't matter whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, but of accepting modules and looking at modules and that sort of thing, generally I rework them anyway. I do, however, have to say, and this is not because I'm paid by Dungeons and Dragons to run Ghosts of Saltmarsh, there are parts of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, the book, that I absolutely adored. The city of Saltmarsh is an absolutely vibrant and wonderful space. It's got some into their characters, links them into that city in a really, really awesome way. I really like it. And as a result, cool ideas, they're not new ideas, but it's got some cool ideas. And the backstories that the players can incorporate. Result, you'll notice that the first 4 episodes, we kind of spent just wandering around Saltmarsh and experiencing. So I felt very underwhelmed by it. I was like, well, okay, fine, that's what's been included, that's what's included. And it will be simply for a tarot card deck that you draw from, and that determines the location of certain things to try and create forgotten and ignored. Curse of Strahd, I love the idea of Curse of Strahd in terms of Saltmarsh itself. None of that is in the adventures within the actual book itself. There was a lot of stuff in there that replayability. Again, though, as I say, I usually create my own stuff. Take what's there, pull for, like what's there, and then go from there. I haven't run things like Tomb of Annihilation or any of the other. I really haven't, because personally I haven't needed to. What I did like about Ghosts of Saltmarsh was it inspired me to get off of my ass and to actually write a module or to write a rule set which I think makes naval combat better. I should have done it for the Adventures of the Windswift 2 years ago, but I just didn't have the framework, I didn't like it. So for me, the modules, if they inspire you to create something or to make it your own, that's a good module. So there we are. David Chachere, I'm not sure how one pronounces that. Question, familiar with the... I've actually got an interview with the, or had an interview with the author of Lazy Dungeon. Way of the Lazy Dungeon Master. The Way of the Master. Any thoughts on Dungeon Master? And his name's completely gone out of my head because I'm terrible with names. Fantastic chap to talk to, very insightful. We all have our own methods, and we can all learn from each other's methods. I haven't read his book, or the second one, because I think he released his second one as well. In terms of being a lazy dungeon master, I don't like the name Lazy Dungeon Master. If you are a lazy dungeon master, then why are you a dungeon master? I do think the smart dungeon master might have been a better approach, but that's me personally, because there are ways of planning and there are ways of over planning and there are ways of doing things that are quick and easy, lazy, but if you know what you're doing, you're trained to be able to do stuff on the fly, then you're not lazy. You're making use of your skills at improvisation and at making up things on the fly. I don't see... Anyway, let's not get stuck there. Nick Bradbury says, of all the Dungeons & Dragons game settings, what is your... So, yes, long and short of it, I haven't read the book, but I have met the person, and I had a thoroughly entertaining time talking to them. Again, I have to confess, none of them. I didn't like the Pantheon. The favorite preferred Pantheon of deities from a richness of flavor standpoint that they had. Possibly because I haven't read the latest one in 5th edition, but the fact that there was one god for the elves and one god for the dwarves and one god for the orcs, I felt very much disenfranchised the opportunities of the players. I also do not hold that one should have 500,000 gods because it's overwhelming for the players. I have my own bunch of gods that I use and have used for decades where they are more nebulous, which I feel is more in keeping with how our gods in the real world operate, which allows us to have more interesting relationships than, oh, well, that's the lawful evil god. Okay, cool. Yes, I have a god named Reft, who's the god of self-indulgence and of fulfilling one's own desires and passions. Is that an evil god? Is that a god that we should try and fight? Is it, you know, what should we look at? And yeah, so I have my own list of gods, the gods of Braxia, where Brax is, he's not the good god, he's the god to bring about justice. So I like more complicated gods than just, oh, god of this, god of that, god of this, god of that. So there we are. As a matter of fact, my gods were more based on the Roman gods, to the point that a friend of mine who's god of justice, but he's also the god of vengeance and the god of revenge. Just joined us now, Dead Aussie Gamer, said, he's like, this is R18 material. I'm like, no, it's not. It's based on the Egyptian pantheon. He slept with her, and then she exploded, and bits of that went there, and da-da-da-da. Anyway, so yeah, it that's the long and the short of it. I also think that as a creator, I read through the gods, and I went, okay, cool. So they've got this god, and they've got this god, and they've got this one, they've got this one, they've got this one. I feel like I can not do better, but I can do alternative, which allows for me as a creator to tell a better story. So there we go. That would be the answer there. I missed a whole bunch of questions. I realize that, so please remember to repost them. We've got 2 more minutes for questions. So there we are. Right, next one is peg leg. Would you let them hide a wand in the peg leg, or use a wand as from Honorable 596? Question, say you have a player playing a caster with a wand in the peg leg is great. Depending on how and what the peg leg is made out of, is a peg leg, would you let them use a rod as a cane? The idea of hiding the... I would give it a shatter chance because it's hollow to fit the wand in. I wouldn't make it that it's completely invisible and only the caster knows where it is. There would be clear hinges. It would be obvious to be seen. The wand, every time it fires or every time it's used, draws energy from the caster. And in terms of the leg being an actual wand, That's okay, but I would then say that that energy could be in the form of a constitution point or a random value amount of damage which recovers overnight over long rests. So I would say, okay, cool, it's linked together. Or can I have something this? And then you go, well, that's pretty out of the field. I like it. It's a nice idea. Let's see how it works. So that's what I usually do when players say, but here's some restrictions, so that the players know that they're not just getting a free-for-all. Oh, okay, well, actually, my leg is a tank, and I wheel around on this. No, let's sort that one out. Right, time's up. Let's hold your questions. Hold your questions for now. Keep them safe, keep them warm, feed them, tend to them, let them know that they're loved. We're going to come back to them. We are going to come back to them. Vifortis asking about that anti-fatigue mat. I actually didn't. Terranatum, thank you for that. I don't, and like futons and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm not doing. I looked, and in Japan you get lots of memory foam slippers. Too badly, thank you, as a matter of fact. So yeah, we're going to see how it goes, and things will change up there. But when I'm back in Japan, I'll definitely have a look at that. Okay, right. So no more questions for now. No more questions for now. Of course, it all becomes a moot point because I moved to the States in 4 days. It's crazy. If you please, no more questions for now. What I would like to do very quickly, so we can see whether this is going to work or not. Of the 121 of you that are in the chat, of the 121 of you who are in the chat at the moment, creative writing is an opportunity for you guys to just try out some cool stuff. I would urge you to use it as a serious exercise and not as a below the belt joke exercise, although it's entirely up to you. It's your time. You can do as you so wish. Today, what I wanted to do was to have you work in pairs. Randomly sign up, join up, and work in pairs, and to work on some creative writing stuff together. Because creative writing is great if you are an author to work on your own. And let me tell you, you still won't be working on your own. You will be working with an editor ultimately if your book is going to get published, and they're going to have suggestions and changes which you will have to adapt. So part of creative writing is working out and learning how to work with a partner. And I can't think of a better way than to partner you guys up randomly. No one's gonna partner up with me. I can already see people are throwing out, hey, partner. You can partner yourselves up. And I know the dread of sitting there going, partner, good Lord. Okay, well, there we go. So partnerships are happening, but what I thought was Discord would make it easier for you to interface and to participate in this, because you can join the Discord, you can go and find an empty space, there's tons of them on the Discord server, and then you can work through this creative writing. So they are not part of it already, and then you can participate. I'm going to put the link in the server below. We became Discord partners just the other day, which was fantastic. So that is the link to join the Discord. I believe, I could be wrong, but that is the link to join the Discord. And in our Discord channel, there we go, White Tiger 225, 100 experience. The creative writing thing we're only going to do in about half an hour, because it gives people time to join up the Discord if it points to you, because your link is all nice and highlighted and glowing. I don't know how to really do that. What did I do wrong? Did I leave out the https:// thingy? Anyway, if you're not on Discord, it's not a problem, because as I can see, a lot of people are rushing off to Discord to go and join that channel that I've made. It's under the game table. Is it under the game table? Yes, under the game table, live chat is there. I can see a lot of people have joined in, so you can join up there. It just allows you to type faster and not necessarily have a whole bunch of stuff. Nicholas, hey, you're on your way to work. Well, at least you've got some companionship whilst you're on your way there, hopefully, or you're listening to this on headphones and that sort of thing. Anyway, all right, so we're going to give you some time to join that Discord server. If you want to join, that's cool. It won't be in voice chat. No, it's just in the text chat. You're going to be typing. So when you go to the Discord server, you will see that under the game table, there's a thing called Live Creative Writing, and you can join it here. Yes. Some people are asking here. So yes, indeed. Once you're there, you can see names of people a lot easier because it's bringing both Twitch and YouTube together. And you can find a partner, and then you can rush off and join a server somewhere, a chat channel. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's empty. It doesn't really matter. Just don't violate the rules of the server, as the Discord goblins will be upon thee with a great vengeance, for that is their task, to keep these things clean. I think Gomp Squad channels might still be open. There's like a whole bunch of them. So go and have a look there. We will talk about that in a little bit. So we'll figure out who's where, and then we can work it out. So this is a bit of a test. This is a bit of a test, and if you have better ways of doing this, if you've got software or technology that you know about, which would be a better way of getting a whole bunch of people to come together, let me know. So while that's going on, while you having the opportunity to join the Discord, and we'll share it if anyone wants the links and stuff, we can go from there. So there we are. And it's if you don't like Discord, if you want to join Discord, that's not a problem. You can still do it here as well. I was just trying to help organize and that sort of thing. Are trios allowed? You know, this is absolutely a love about humanity. What I love about working with people is you go, right, pair up. And so DJ Down Under 757 says, are trios allowed? One of the things that goes, well, can I go in threes? I'm not picking on you because you said that. And you go, well, I said pair, but sure, trio is fine. Ménage à trois. Let us go that route. Sure, if you want to do it as a trio, that's absolutely fine. I'll never forget, I did a science project once where there were two of us. Well, we asked if there could be two of us. We were supposed to be on your own. And they said, well, you'll have to do double the work. So we did double the work. And then we said, well, can there be three of us? And they said, well, you have to do triple the work. And we went, well, all right, fine, we'll do triple the work. So if there's three of you, it needs to be 3 times as good. Or whatever that would be. Okay, while that's happening, let's go back to some questions. We'll do questions for another 4 minutes, and then we will start on the creative writing process. So I see some questions have come through already. Perlin's Attack says, thoughts on using the Game Master themselves as final boss with the characters in order to end the campaign by fusing characters and players. Can it be a good plot twist? I run a strange campaign. I think you would need to define what powers the GM has in order for the players to kind of know where they're going. So if you are running a space where the GM is an all-powerful, omnipotent god, then there's no chance of them winning. If they're playing a powerful god who has tremendous amounts of magic and energy but is not infinite, then yes, you could do that. It's an interesting fourth wall breaker if you're playing. Next question. Any plans on map making videos that focus on less Eurocentric structures? Players are interested in that sort of thing, then yes, go for it. Absolutely. Absolutely do that. Much like your recent Greco-Roman temple. White Tiger, I'm going to be very honest with you. I work very closely with Dungeon Fog in terms of the stuff that they're releasing. Obviously, at the moment, they are fixated on Project Deos, and rightly so. It's a phenomenal project. That finally launches in July. Yes, I know that they're a small team, very good team, which is great. And I have been pushing them for more non-human stuff. So you can certainly do Egyptian with the current map packs that they have if you are a subscriber. You can do that. If you want discount, just use the Great GM code when signing up. You get a nice discount. I think it's 10% off of their subscription cost there. But yes, a lot of times it's color. So you'll notice, for example, when I'm doing a Dungeon Fog map, I will change the color of the walls or the floor tiles. So it's stone, but it's not white stone. It's orange. That immediately sends it into more of a Mediterranean kind of space, a Spanish space, or if you're going more Japanese, you go blues, lots of blues, wonderful blue colors and things. So yeah, I would certainly look at that from that perspective, playing around with color. The props, of course, are always going to be a challenge because the props are fixed to a specific point. But as they release more content, you're getting more props and you can kind of work with those and twist those around. So yeah, one of the biggest things I've been pushing for, and you can certainly push for it, because on their Discord server and on their social media, they're very inclusive of what people suggest. So if you say, hey, give us racial content, like give us orcish chairs and beds and floor mats, give us elvish beds and airs, you know, we can then do that. So there you are. Okay, Kate Anchan says, I'm working on creating a divide in the drow to allow for at least a group of them to feel that they won't get immediately killed. Any thoughts to work from on how the divide came to be? Division is... well, division happens really easily. Just ask a different question. It's like, okay, well, inherently evil. They are inherently suspicious of people who come from the surface. They are incredibly... should we invade the dwarves or not? Divisions split up immediately between the two. It also depends on how your drow operates. So drow in my custom world, they're not evil. They're not... protective of their borders, and in my game they are much more like the Roman Empire, where they expand because they want to protect their borders, so they annihilate the opposition that is immediately close to them, only to discover more opposition, so they have to expand even further. But with that comes all of that wonderful politicking that happens in all cultures, but specifically in the Roman space, where it's families and it's connections and it's senators and that sort of thing. So yeah, divides, I think, literally you can lines that they no longer wanted to worship their goddess, they wanted to worship another goddess. There's a religious split. You can just look at any kind of culture and say, okay, well, what if they divided upon for trade and for commerce? So it's a mercantile split, and you have the traditionalists who don't want to work. In terms of trying to find drow that work best, what if there's a group of drow that want to work with the surface? You know, so there's lots of options. There's lots of options. Dead Era asks, how long would the creative writing take? It usually takes about 10 minutes. This one might take 15 minutes. It might take a little bit longer, so it'll take us up to the actual hour once we get going there. DJ Down Under 757 says, currently working on a modern magic campaign with a strong amazing race theme. Tips: for my campaign your series left a little to be desired. So modern day magic, depends on what system you're using. D20 modern with the Arcana, modern Arcana, what is it called? Urban Arcana book could work for you in terms of that. In terms of what is your amazing... so it's a bunch of people traveling around the world. They're looking for a specific thing. The party, I assume, is one of the groups that are moving around looking for that. So definitely look from that perspective. But effectively, the amazing race, when you break it down, it's a series of travel montages. It's party getting lost, it's them trying to interpret map, it's this and that and the next thing. So unless you are giving them maps each week as the player group, or at least each adventure, which would be getting from point A to point B to point C to point D, I think that you're going to lots of combat. Again, not sure. That's a balance that you will need to strike. They don't do that in Amazing Race, obviously, because it's television and you're not allowed to actually shoot at contestants. Interesting, and to keep it informative. Because it's modern, are you going to have combat? Are you going to have struggle a little bit to keep it interesting? But you never know. You never know. So I would look at lots of handouts. I would look at lots of visceral stuff for your players to actually engage with. I think that would work quite well. Ingenuity, it's gone. How can we reward players' ingenuity when we... Last question before we go into creative writing. How can we reward players' ingenuity? I'm not a huge fan of inspiration to begin with. It's a very metagame mechanic, which isn't a problem. I don't think it goes far enough to get inspiration. If you don't mind metagaming. But I do find it quite a metagame mechanic. So In terms of rewarding creativity and ingenuity, I usually reduce the difficulty of genius in terms of how they're negotiating with a particular god or a captain and of the role, or I improve the quality of the outcome. So if the player is being really included and they talk about family and all that sort of thing, I will severely lower the god's they're bringing in stuff that really you didn't even think of to existence to that particular player's character and whatever it is that their character is asking. Because if you've got players who are being ingenious, if they're thinking about cool stuff, absolutely give it to them, but twist it, because that's ultimately our job, is always just to twist it a little bit. So there you are. Whether you're here, whether you have private messaging going on, hopefully you've got a partner to play. Okay, hold your questions. Creative writing time. Whether you are on the Discord channel with, it would be preferable if you have a partner. If you don't have a partner, type in message looking for partner. And then we'll go from there. So have a partner for this, but part of the actual exercise is working with another person. Pikmin. So if there is anyone who's still participating, looking for partner, you don't have to necessarily, if you don't have a writing partner, type in message looking for partner. Okay. Biomaster is looking for partner. Anybody else? Anybody else? Pikmin Biomaster, I think you are on Discord already. Matthew Downs is looking for a partner. So Pikmin Biomaster, Matthew Downs, I'm partners. Alan Robinson is looking for a partner. Matthew Downs, are you on the Discord server? I hope so. In which case you and Pikmin Biomaster have just become, feel like the two of you should get together and say, hey, howdy do. Let's work together. Looking for Matt. Matt is on YouTube. Matthew Downs is on YouTube at the moment. Some people still looking. We're looking for a partner with Alan Robinson. Donald Duster Jr. just became your partner, Alan Robinson. I hope the two of you are on Discord. There you go. Red Sid on Discord. It's a collab. Oh, we got Nevin Richard asking for a collab. Okie dokes. Matthew Downs is not on Discord, so I can't pair you up with Pikmin Biomaster. So, looking for partner, says Donald Deister. Okay, so Donald Deister Jr., Matthew Downs, say hello to each other. You're working together. You're partners. There you go. That's it. The partners are for challenges about collaborating with other people. So once Serpent's Embrace 2, partners are because part of the collaboration in chat anyway. So you've got chat, you've got pairs, hopefully you've got Discord where that we need to learn is collaborating with other people. So the right, everyone's got partners. I think pretty much everyone is paired up now. Those that seem to be active, else if you want to invite each other, whatever. If you form a new friend, that's fan. You can chat on. You can chat in that particular Discord platform. You can chat somewhere else if you want to invite each other, whatever. If you form a new friend, that's fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. So, today's writing challenge is fairly simple. I need you guys, you folk, to rewrite this sentence where you can. I'm going to put the sentence into chat so that you have access to it. This is a line of dialogue. I need you to rewrite this sentence in the best possible way. Now, as a pair, please, if you are a pair, don't work alone. That's not the point that I'm going to give you to work with. You have to said by someone good, and so that when we read it, you have to rewrite the dialogue so that it is said by somebody who is evil, and so when we read it, we go, they are evil. However, you cannot say this grin. We're not looking for that kind of obviousness. This is about some line that I'm going to give you, said the good one. Or he said with an evil subtlety. So this is a play where you are writing out the sentence in a way to reflect a good person and in the row to reflect a bad person. You are limited to your 200 characters that you can drop into Discord, or not into Discord, into YouTube or into Twitch, once you guys have come up with your sentences. Exercise and working together to construct a phrasing that allows for us to determine good is 200 characters each. You put the first one in when I ask for it, or evil. Here is the sentence. This one in, and then we will vote as to whether that is the good one or that is the evil one. So, write it as a good person. I have never killed anyone. I have never killed anyone. I've never killed anyone. And write it as an evil person. I've never killed anyone. You like, or however you feel, conveys goodness and conveys evil. Probably. I don't know. Who cares? They're dead. Rewrite it however you wait. I never have and never would kill anyone. Again, you need don't just use the sentence. You've got 200 characters. So that's your challenge. Chat about it in whatever chat service you're using. So you can elaborate. You can work together. Yes, normally you use body language. You use tone. You use accent. You try and convey that in physicality. But this is creative writing. So, but somehow you have to convince us that whatever the person is who is saying, I have never killed anyone, rewrite the sentence. It doesn't even need to include those words in that order. One is good. Don't put your answer to do it. Work out. Hey, what if we said this word? What if we used this into Discord yet? Don't put your answers into YouTube or into Twitch yet. Keep them, okay? But for now, I want you to work with your partner, try and eat meat. So that's what I'm saying. You can expand upon it to convey that the person never kill anyone. I just don't have it in me. I can barely even person is good or is evil. So that's what you're going to be working on. What if we said the person looked up with tears in their eyes and said, I would never do it. How to say it in a written form. If it's in a quivering voice, run the same thing through your head. Figure out how to work it, how to bit whilst we are here. If you don't have a partner, he said in a quivering voice, his hands tightly clutched together, the whites, that's fine. Add that as part of the sentence. I would never kill anyone. Oh, I could never kill anyone. Of his knuckles revealing the nervousness under which he was pressure twitch. Unless that's where you're collaborating. If that's where you're collaborating, that's fine. Keep so we can work through them and we can look at them and we can dissect them from that perspective. Keep your answers for now, because I'm going to ask for them in a little bit, and then we're going to have those answers in a nice big block. Something along those lines. Don't write your answers yet, though, into the chat for YouTube or for... Right. So while that's going on, whilst you guys are doing that, I need to do something. I'm running a game in a couple hours, and I need to go to this. You've got another 7 minutes, by the way, to work on that sentence. This place. I'm going to go to this place whilst you're busy working on that. You've got so no major time pressure. Hopefully for some of you this is working. Like I said, you guys like this in terms of whether you don't like it. Ah, okay. That's a thing. This is an experiment. This is an experiment for the channel. in terms of whether subtlety in terms of expression is what we are invariably always after. Because well, sometimes you want to be overly dramatic and you definitely want the players to realize that there is definitely evil here. Through that, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. Sorry, I must look like an absolute twit. Without a doubt. So you guys just work. I'm going to transition here. I am in Wonderdraft because once off game. Using a new RPG system that I wrote for the game called the Quick and Easy Role-Playing Guide. It's 6 pages long. That's all the rules. A map for the game I'm running this afternoon. So one takes 20 minutes to make a character. Patreon group will be available as a podcast. With my 5 minutes left. Don't post your answers yet. Keep them near, dear, and keep them safe. I think I made this map too big. So this particular game, they are monster hunters on a alien planet. And as you might expect, those self-same monsters. It's a sci-fi game. And they're going to be hunting some rather terrifying monsters. This tool, it's called Raise Land, to generate. We'll be hunting them. Nom 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 nom. So I'm using this creative writing, and I always welcome an environment that the players will be running in. Input from you guys in terms of how this is operating, whether it's could be done better. 4 minutes, good and evil. Same sentence. Fun and learning and being better GMs and players. Just want to make sure that we are maximizing the time that we spend together in terms of having fun. Participate. Absolutely voice that, please. No judgment. If so, how can it be done better? If this is too much of a component for you that you don't really like because you can't. I don't know of any software that allows for random pairing of people. So three minutes. Two minutes. Ready to paste them up into YouTube or into Twitch, whichever platform your pair is making. Get your answers ready, copy them, get ready. Making use of. 1 minute. 1 minute left. As I am nearly finished drawing this map up as well. What the hell is this map, you might ask? Well, the players are going to have this available to them. This is the surface of the planet Argo that they are exploring in the Halcyon system. They're not exploring it. They've hired as mercenaries to hunt out the Vox, a rather nasty swarm-like insect creature. It grows to 3 meters in length and eats power cables at the mining consortium. They're busy mining a liquid metal known as Nacium 235, and these Vox are vermin that consume the mining operations. So they've hired mercenaries who get paid 1,000 credits per Vox that they take out. So I realized that they might benefit from having a map. Okie dokes, time is up. I'm going to switch away from that. And I'm actually going to close that because it does take a huge amount of data. Of processing power. I don't know why. But anyway, there we are. That should return the stream to normal. I'm going to move this back over here. Right. So we are now ready. We lost 10 people. I see. That's okay. So if you have a response, don't tell me whether it's the good one or the evil one. Post your response into your chat of choice, whether it's YouTube or into Twitch. Post it up now. Post up one of them, not both of them, just one of them. Used with stuff. As Stranger says, don't forget to. Just one of the team needs to do it as well, if you please, so we don't get dead. Like the stream if you do like that stream, and we need to knock Miss Miss Ginger Ninja off her post in terms of donations to the channel, because she cannot be the monster, can she? Is she? Okay, let's see. We got some things coming through. SL Dharma said, come on, I could never kill anyone. Don't you believe me? Opal stammered, her slim arms extended outwards, her eyebrows tilted down, her face filled with tears, and her body shivered. Stranger says, I can't stand blood, she muttered, pushing her hair behind her ear and glancing aside. So I couldn't have killed anyone. Wait a second. Wow, they're coming in thick and fast. I have never... I don't like blood. Where is it? 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 I've lost it. I've lost it. Oh, I can't stand blood, she muttered, pushing her hair behind her ear and glancing aside. So I couldn't have killed anyone, obviously. She huffed and rolled her eyes. Pikmin Biomaster, I have never killed anyone. Why would it ever come to such a thing? Let's go with logic appeal, shall we? Simon Yin says, well, you will find that I personally have never killed anyone. Matter of fact, Cloctopus. He looked up with wide eyes ridden with desperation and said, I have never killed anyone. You've got to believe me. Really? We do? We do? We do? I'm going to come back to some of these. It was not my fault. I had no choice, says Lucis Falcao. I would never kill anyone. Yes, there is not a day when I do not contemplate the idea of ending your life, but I did not. Ooh, ooh. Lance Pickett says, I have never killed anyone. I have yet to have reason, proper pay, or opportunity. Not yet. Oh, Jason S. says, the Guildmaster looks at the group and with confidence says to them, I have never killed anyone. But he looks over to the shadowy figure in the corner with his piercing green eyes. Nice, 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 nice. Okay, and they are coming through fast. I'm going to just go back to some of the first ones that came through. So let's unpack these. So I like this. Do you see how you guys have started to rework some of the sentences? I'm hoping you collaborated together in terms of your word choice. Why your word choice? This is what's important about, not necessarily as a player or as a game master, but just generally speaking, as a person. It's good to explore how do we say things and yet we give them away. So one of the things that I do like Let's look at SL Dharma's come on, I could never kill anyone. Don't you believe me? Opal stammered, her slim arms extended outwards, her eyebrows tilted down so she's got her face in a furrow, her eyes filled with tears. She's teary-eyed and her body is shivering. So the shivering of the body, nervousness, she's worried. Why is she worried? If she hadn't killed anyone, why would she be shivering? Is it because she's hiding something? Is it because she's nervous that something's going to get found out? Is it shock? Is she worried? She has tears in her eyes, but anyone can cry on command with a little bit of training. And I certainly would be crying if I had been caught having killed somebody. So, good or evil? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The stuttering, the stammering. I certainly think it could be sincere. Opal, it says she stammered, so that's absolutely fine. Her slim arms extended outwards. Is it possible that someone with slim arms is capable of killing somebody else? Did they use a blade? Did they use a weapon? We're not entirely sure. I'm going to say her eyebrows tilted downwards, the body shivering. I'm going to say it's good. That's me personally. The rest of you can decide. Stranger, I can't stand blood, she muttered, pushing her hair behind her ear and glancing aside. Interestingly enough, that gesture, that hair behind the ear, when we lie, we either touch our noses or we touch our ears because we're worried that someone is watching us. So by pushing her hair behind her ear, she's unconsciously touching herself. When we put our hands on the backs of our heads, we're reassuring ourselves. We're giving ourselves a pat on the head. We're saying, it's okay, you're not alone. There is not this big void behind you. So the moment you start to interact with your face when you're telling a story, oftentimes is a sign of trying to reassure yourself that everything is okay. In this case, because she says, I can't stand blood, is she reassuring herself because there was so much blood that she's afraid of that blood? So she's reassuring herself, saying the blood is gone now, it's over. So maybe she was there when there was all that blood. And she says, so I couldn't have killed anyone, obviously. And she huffs and rolls her eyes. The huffing and rolling of eyes. So in other words, the person who has had the audacity of asking her the question, did you kill anyone? She is being negative towards. She is dismissing them. Well, obviously, I couldn't have killed anyone because I don't like blood. That's very defensive. That's almost aggressively defensive. It's putting the onus now back onto the person who asked the question in the first place to say, well, sure, you can't stand the sight of blood. That doesn't mean you're not a killer. I'm going to say she's evil. That's just me. I'm probably reading too much into it. But this is the kind of stuff that our players will read into it. So when you are working with somebody, when you are collaborating with somebody from this creative perspective, these are the kinds of questions that you need to ask yourselves to interrogate. Is this conveying the emotion of good, or is this conveying the emotion of evil? It's definitely something to look at. I'm going to skip down a whole bunch. So guys, if you have added in things, please, 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 I really do appreciate it. I really, really do. And I hope that you have benefited from this. Orestafar SPDR says, well, I'd certainly never dream of killing a single soul. Trust me, my friend. She cooed. Smile sugary sweet. Wow. Wow. I'm going evil. I'm saying evil. The moment I get sugary sweet, that's me as the dungeon master. The moment I'm all kind and, well, I certainly would never dream of killing a single soul. Trust me, my friend. Evil. You are evil. You are evil to the core. You are so evil. You are beyond evil. You make evil look good. Certainly, that's what that's what I take from that. Well, I'd certainly never dream of killing a single soul. Trust me, my friend. My friend. That particular phrasing as well. It's enforcing. I don't have to say my friend to you if I assume you are my friend. By saying my friend, I'm forcing you to either now defend and say, well, I'm not your friend, which makes you a bit of an ass, or by saying, well, actually, we are friends, in which case then I should trust you because that's what friends do. You are forcing my position. And as a result, I'm no longer focused on the murder. I'm now focused on defending myself from a socially awkward situation. So I would always say that that's an evil approach. So have a look at that. I didn't kill her. She stabbed herself in the back 357 times. Yes, well, I think that, or it was accidental. She ran backwards 357 times because we were taking a bet to see if she could run back 357 times. Those kinds of things. Got to go, Kate. Thanks for being part of this. I'm scrolling down randomly. Chance Knight says, death is a dedicated, relentless worker. It doesn't need my help. After all, I'm no killer. I've never once taken a life, and the insinuation is almost offensive. This is a great one. I like this one simply because there are so many things here at play. Death is a dedicated, relentless worker. That is somebody who has accepted that death is around. That is someone who has been thinking about death. In order to make such a profound statement, a dedicated, relentless worker. Death is an operation. It works. It is part of the system. So in other words, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. There's a lot of subtext in there. It doesn't need my help. It doesn't need, sure, it doesn't need my help, but that doesn't say that you didn't do it. Just that it doesn't need your help. I killed them anyway, but I didn't need to because death would have done it eventually. I was just speeding things up. So for me, that statement is very, very loaded. After all, I am no killer. Sure, killer implies murder, but this whole sentence has been dedicated to the idea of death, which is, as has been described, a natural process that occurs always. So in this individual's mind, death doesn't need my help. When I ended that person's life, I simply brought death to them. I'm not a killer. I am merely an extension of this relentless work that's always going to happen. So there's a lot of denial going on in this. I've never once taken a life, and the insinuation is almost offensive. Major Domo, thank you for that. I do appreciate that donation. So I've never once taken a life. Okay, sure. Up until now. And the insinuation is almost offensive. Note it isn't offensive, it's almost offensive. That is passive-aggressive to the maximum. Again, look at how it puts the person on the defensive. While I wasn't being offensive, I'm just following through asking if you killed this person. I'm going to say this person is evil. A good person, there is so much stuff in this sentence, there are so many layers to that one sentence. A good person wouldn't say that. I don't think. That's me personally. So that's what I would say to that. So there you are. Happy solstice, Major Domo. Happy solstice. Is it the solstice? Yes, it's the 22nd of June. It's my grandfather's 95th birthday today. Or tomorrow it will be, because I'm in the future. No, God. Okay, I have to make a very important phone call shortly back to Africa to remind him. I'm going to put it on my to-do list. Grandpa's birthday. 21st of June. Usually I get a reminding message from my mother, but anyway. All right, so evil was correct, says Cloctopus. Yay. Poison doesn't cause bleeding. Very well observed. We don't know the circumstances of the death. My father doesn't kill people. He just helps them arrive in heaven earlier than they would of their own accord. Very Luciferian response, that. In all my life, I have not laid my hand upon a man whom I had not made my friend. A gentle and disarming smirk inching onto their face. In all my life, I have not laid my hand upon a man whom I had not made my friend. I only kill my friends. I believe death should be intimate and personal. That's what I'm reading. I don't know. Maybe I'm just naturally an evil person and I can't not read these things out in that sort of way. Matthew Downs says, the sneer split his face from cheek to fat jowl as he gestured at the innocent beings below. Pick one. Not yet, but I'll cut the first one that gets in my way. Interesting. I think it's evil. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe. Well, no, that the the nomenclature there, the sneer, the split his face from fat jowl to cheek. There's definitely a sense of evilness there. So yes, there's collaboration happening. That's good. My bard has never killed anyone that didn't deserve it. That is an interesting one, Zoe Cobayalis, because when I look at that, you go, my bard has never killed anyone that doesn't deserve it. So is that good or is it evil? It depends. We now need to ask more questions. Well, I didn't kill them. I'm just saying that they deserved it. So that means I might be innocent if it's self-defense. Who deserves to die and who deserves not to die? So I like those kinds of statements as well. I'm not saying that. So yeah, there we go. All right, I'm going to stop this now. We have spent a lot of time on it, more so than we usually have. He ran into my knife. He ran into my knife 10 times. He had it coming. I thought it was 10 times. Is it 9 times? 9 times. 9 times. He had it coming. I love that. One of my favorite Broadway musicals, Chicago. Wow. So you say, nah, I merely offer people up to my master, and death decides if the offering is. So many responses to that one sentence. Murder is worthy or not. Jack Lind, evil beyond a shadow of a doubt. There is a psychopathic nature to that sentence, a sociopathic nature as well. I think it's really, really, really cool. Even if I didn't get to manage to read out yours, I hope that you derived benefit from the collaboration, from seeing if you could make it evil or if you could make it good. I like that. I like that. I like that. How somebody else has thought about the sentence. Can we put in our other sentences now that it's over? Yes. Put in your other sentence. So this is for the opposite now of what you did put in. Let's put in your other sentence. I forgot about that. I think people are having fun, although we've lost quite a few people who couldn't participate, I'm sure. I'm trying to make it as lively as possible. Lance Pickett, speaking of evil, forgetting your... It is still, give me a second here. Shit. Okay. Grandfather's birthday. This coming from a grandfather. I didn't forget it. I didn't, because I missed it. Sorry for swearing. It's 4 a.m. in South Africa, but I have the excuse of saying I live in a different part of the world and it's still the 21st here. I can't believe that I didn't get any message. Is it 21st of June? I'm sure it's the 21st. I won't know. He's old. He'll still think it's the 21st. He'll just go, oh, well, living in Japan, crazy. 1st of June. Or is it the 22nd of June? No, well, it's 4 a.m. in the morning. I can't even ask my mother. You see how useless some people are? You just can't send them messages at 4 in the morning. Okay, so now we got the other messages coming through. Your other sentences are, Alan Robinson, I didn't kill him. Hey, what's that? Let's see. The well-dressed baron fiddled uncomfortably with his bow tie. Behind you. I didn't kill him. That was my knife, says Gumi. The same for my servants, however. Evil to the furthest point of evilness. Murder? Me? I'll have you know these hands are clean. He examines a fingernail idly. Can't say that he's worried about looking good. Well, because murderers look good. Or there's no concern for the person who's died. It's like, well, couldn't be me. My servant or something. I don't know. It just, to me, it just says evil. Especially that idle fingernail. He's a well-dressed baron who's fiddling with his bow tie. That means he's worried about looking good. Why is he, however, a bunch of untrustworthy? And of course, there's always that sense that the aristocracy look down upon their servants. You flew into a rage, and so you killed them. Chance Knight killing someone it's just... But, madame, in that passionate moment where you learned that your lover was cheating on you, horrible, I couldn't, not ever... I'm going to say it's good. I think. I'm going to say it's good because killing someone it's just horrible. I couldn't, not ever. And there's always the idea that the servants are evil and not the aristocracy. I love that sentence. Very nice sentence. Chance Knight, well, it's just horrible. I couldn't, not ever. There is that emphaticness to it, which I think could work. I think it could work. So there you go. Red Sid, thank you. I do like the Immediate turnaround. Killing someone is Miss Ginger Ninja off the monster. So there we go. I say you welcome. And we have, well, Mage Demo bumped. Save them all. I'm the hereafter all because. What? I don't understand, Richard Garcia. It's up to the program to decide. A routine of calculations which you and White Tiger 225 says not my entry. Mr. Anderson, I have never killed anyone. I saved them all. I'm the hereafter all because. Okay, it doesn't make sense. I are nothing but Mr. Anderson. Yes, I loved Hugo Weaving in that role. There's no way to say that it's not pure and utter evil because it's Hugo Weaving. Unless he's in a dress, he's evil. Elrond was evil. He was a manipulative monster as far as I'm concerned. Love that sentence. Grizzly says, he gasped as he stepped backwards, eyes wide and eyebrows raised. I have never killed anyone. He whispered hoarsely. Oh, he whispered hoarsely. I have never killed anyone. I don't know. Good. I'm going to say good. I'm going to say good. The eyes wide, the eyebrows raised. It is a sign of shock and innocence. It didn't say there that in an exaggerated way, in a comical way, in a satirical way. He whispered hoarsely, I've never killed anyone. I think I'm going to say it's good there. Apparently Sasha says, could never kill someone. I swear my life and all the good gods. I know you'll see the truth. Interesting. The I know you'll see the truth part is what's curious, isn't it? In terms of you might think I did it, but I couldn't. I swear to all the good gods. Nice inclusion of the word good gods, because it's not just gods. I'm going to go with good there. I'm going to go with good, I think. Chance Knight, I like this one. I didn't, at least I don't think, oh gods, did I? Am I a murderer? So, this is an interesting play. When you are trying to portray a good character or an evil character, denial is often seen as admittance. I didn't do it. Well, of course you did. You just said you didn't. So you're stuck in that sort of loop of, well, I did it. Ha, you did it. But I just... We've all seen that joke. So this way of doing it, where the person is questioning, are they the murderer? They're not saying they are. But they're saying, am I? Help me to find the truth. There's an inclusion. There is not a barrier. There isn't dismissiveness. There isn't aggressiveness, passive or otherwise. There isn't any kind of thing other than, hey, help me figure out if I actually am. That immediately says to me innocence and goodness, because there's that concern. But it also speaks to, well, there is also this memory gap, apparently, that is happening. If it's proven to be true, then maybe this person is innocent. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? It's something to think about. All right. Oh, so many coming through. So many coming through. If a person with multiple personalities kills themselves, is it homicide or suicide? Sadly, that can actually be quite on point. Multiple personality disorders don't know necessarily of each other. And so as a result, you can have suicidal tendencies within the one. But yes. Kill that loot. Wait, what? There's a loot? Have I killed anyone? Of course. I'm a bard. The crowds love me. My sets always kill. I slay them, good old gamer says. Yeah, kill the loot. Kill the loot indeed. Right. Enough of that. Enough of that. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of fun things coming through there. I think we explored the full gamut of everything. I hope you had fun whilst doing that. If you know of any better way of doing this by partnering up people and getting collaborations, please drop me a note in Discord. Let's have a look at that. We're going to go back to questions just for a few bits and bobs for a few moments, and then we will look at YouTube videos. So creative writing time is over. Thank you for participating, those of you that could. Thank you for listening and staying with us for those of you that couldn't. I do appreciate that. Okay, Honourable 596, do you have any suggestions for fine-tuning a homebrew crocodilian race? I don't have Volo's Guide to Monsters, so I don't have the Lizardman race to base it off of, and I used D&D Beyond to make it. Okay, I haven't used D&D Beyond, to be perfectly honest with you. I always thought it as a sort of a player system, not necessarily a DM system. And Fantasy Grounds does all of my character stuff for me anyway, so I don't need an additional system. In terms of making a crocodilian race, whenever you are making a race, firstly, why are you making it? And what happens if players choose to play it? That's those are the two fundamentals. If you're making it because you want to have a crocodilian race in your game, but the players can't play it, just make it as a monster, where you're not worried too much about balancing issues because you can change and adjust those on the fly. On the other hand, if you are wanting it because you want your player characters to be able to play one, then you need to look at making sure that you don't overpower that player character in terms of having weird and wonderful racial abilities, but you also need to make sure that you don't disempower the player character by having too many restrictions. So that's something to think about. That's something to bear in mind when creating your crocodilian race. Crocodiles, bear in mind, don't have tongues. No tongues. Crocodiles don't have tongues. They just swallow chunks of rotten and rotting meat. So there's something to bear in mind. Just as a weird side thing. Cold-blooded, so don't move around very much. That doesn't help necessarily. Dungeons & Dragons completely ignored that by saying, well, they're not actually reptilian, they're draconic. And dracons and dragons are not necessarily cold-blooded. They could possibly be warm-blooded. Anyway, that's what they did there. Cloctopus then says, I think that's the next question on the list that's popped up. Cloctopus says, I lied. Actually, I just wanted you to say that in communication, only 10% of what we say is words, body language, and tone are most important related to our exercises. What? Who lied? Someone lied? There was lying? There was deception? There was evil? Yes, chaotic evil, chaotic evil, chaotic evil. There you are. Right. Yes. 10% of what we say is words. I would hazard that it's more of that. It's how we say those words. It's what words do we choose. There's so much that you can convey in voice. And yes, physicality is important. Absolutely. And there's a huge amount of stuff that we communicate in physicality. Unless you know about it, in which case then you don't communicate it. You communicate something else. So anyway, Jack Linder says, instead of role-playing the party meeting, do you have a list of questions that the DM can ask the players at session 0 to build party backstory? Yes, absolutely. I think this notion of, okay, you're all completely separate and you get together and you just gel. Or here's the adventure, hopefully by the end of it you'll want to work together. I think that's ridiculous, personally. The most important thing is to see whether or not, well, let's put it this way. Putting a bunch of random people together in a room and saying, right, work together afterwards, it doesn't happen in real life, generally speaking. You bump into people at a convention or at a thing, you might connect to 1 in 100 or in 200. Why should it be different with characters? So the entire idea of a session 0, in my opinion, is to test whether or not the characters that have been created do gel together, not how do they get together. So people sit down at the table and you go, right, you're creating 6 individuals who don't want to work with each other. 5 of you are no longer in this game because you're not going to be playing a game. So come together, let's rework it, let's re-figure out how these characters are going to work together. So questions would be, what are your goals? What are your motives? Why do you work with this person? There's a reason why in the book that I released on creating epic campaigns, there's a little chapter there on how to build PC relationships with one another and the different types of relationships they can have. I had 30 different ways in which the PCs can be linked to each other, which will engender them wanting to work together and play together. It's important that we remember that yes, we're role-playing, and yes, we're role-playing social situations, but we're not role-playing Dungeons and How to Make Friends. We're role-playing Dungeons and Dragons, where a bunch of friends are fighting the dragon or the dungeon or random people who have decided to work together. So bear that in mind. Next question. White Tiger 225 says, how many of your plans survive your players? What percentage? Depends on what you mean by plans. In terms of timing, how many of my timing plans survive my players? I would probably say 50%. Once I've played with a group for a while, that will probably improve to about 75% because I'll know how they kind of work. Sometimes they surprise me. But in terms of my plots, it's usually 100% because if you've watched my videos, my plots are very agile. I have a grandmaster plot and everything else in between is flexible and movable. So from the launch of the campaign to the conclusion of the campaign, everything in between is malleable and doesn't really matter if it changes or not, as long as the end result is still the same. And so far I've had 100% success on that one. But that's just me. Michael Back says, how can you encourage new players to get more involved with their role playing? My friends are having fun playing Dungeons and Dragons, but are less engaged with that aspect of their characters. Well, I would immediately give them a whole bunch of really cool NPCs that will work with them and that will ask them character questions. So you suddenly have a young squire who comes running up to them and says, "Oh, you're the greatest heroes that have ever existed. It would be my honor if I could be your squire. I'll carry your bags. I'll get food for you. I'll buy drinks for you at the tavern if you give me the gold, because I don't have any gold. You don't have to pay me. I will just follow along. I won't get in the way, I promise." Throw a whole bunch of really cool NPCs at the party, and you can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong. So yeah, it is definitely an option for you to have a look at, for you to explore. Is give them NPCs, let the NPCs ask them random questions, just engage with them. So in other words, you're encouraging them to start to role playing, not just saying thou shalt role play and off you go. So something to look at there. And I've just had to mute and silence someone from the channel. Moving on, Pikmin Biomaster says, is there any group of players you miss playing with? You've had so many, you probably have a group or two you no longer are in touch with. Well, all my South African groups I miss because they were around the table. They were good role players. I really enjoyed role playing with all of them. So those are groups that I miss. There's a group that I role played with in the States, which thankfully next week I get to go back and role play with them. Individually, there are hundreds of people that I have role played with. So I think when a group has a lot of fun and when it moves and flows and everyone just works together, works in a really strong, cohesive format, I think that I miss. But I think more, I miss the opportunity where you've got a group of people together, they're friends, you're all playing together and that sort of thing, but it doesn't gel. And you go, well, if that player hadn't been there, would it have been a better game? Would the players have worked better together? So I think what I miss more is the opportunity of being able to build better teams, or to try different teams. Let's not say better teams, to try different teams and to see if they would have worked in a different way. Now, I was looking at stuff. I'm busy talking to Cubicle 7 at the moment. They released the One Ring role-playing system. They released the Lone Wolf system, which when I look back years ago, when the channel was still only about 30,000 subscribers, we did a review on. I had a party there of my usual role players. One was a friend of mine who I've been role playing with since the very beginning, and the other three were new, well, not new friends, but they were friends that I had made when I had moved to the new city, and they were very, very close friends. I look at that and I go, oh, we had so much fun. But what if he hadn't been there? What if it had been somebody else? That could have been interesting. I thought anyway. So maybe that's a better answer. to that. All right, looking for more questions. No more questions. Okay, good. At least none that I can see on my screen at this very moment in time. So I am going to move on to YouTube videos that you should check out this week. And then there's a giant question that comes through. Honorable Tiger, Wolvie Zandalari. Just hold those questions. Let's do your questions first, and then we'll do YouTube, and then that's it. That's it. Hold your questions for now. Hold your questions. Hold your questions, please. Honorable 596 says, do you have any advice for playing a battle dancer type character? One of the characters I want to play is a fire genocide light cleric of Soon, or really any goddess of passion and beauty and fire, and making her a battle dancer seemed fun. I originally tried to make her in a modded Neverwinter Nights 2. I'm going to be very honest with you, Honorable 596. It's a technical question that I'm not qualified to answer. You need to ask that to someone like Nerdarchy or Taking 20 or Runesmith or Cody, where you're talking technical, mechanical builds. I would give you the wrong advice. I would give you advice as to, well, why is this fire genocide? Why is she a fire dancer, or is he a fire dancer? What drew them to it in the first place? What do their parents think about it? Do they have animal? So I would look at it from a narrative perspective, but from a build perspective, wrong channel. Ask any of those other channels that are focused on what's the best build, what's this, what's that. Wolver Zandalari's question just before we go to YouTube videos: do your one of my biggest current criticisms, and it's a criticism that's always, games have downtime for the characters, and if so, what do you let the players do in said downtime? Wolvie Zandalari said with a smile, because the players know that it's not my fault, it's theirs, but it happens. My players very seldom get downtime. They're usually chasing 15 plots in 15 different directions at the same time. So the moment they finish one, they're like, okay, cool, that's done. Whew, right, we have to get over there and we need to get over there. So downtime is usually very short in terms of my games. When they do have downtime, usually more plots are spun out and they discover interpersonal relationships. They know that if they go and look into their backstory, there's a whole bunch of adventures that are coming out of that. So if they have downtime, it's a montage. I ask them if they're going to do anything. Usually they invariably have stuff to do, and so then we start to follow those through and we start to play those through. So yeah, downtime, very, 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 very rare in my games. Is this something that I'm trying to work on, where I sit back and I go, I'm not saying a thing. I'm not seeding anything. I'm not saying anything. You guys are sitting around the campfire. I am quiet. When that does happen, though, sometimes the player-character interaction, it's brilliant. We had it on the Windswift, where the guys would get around their table and they would start talking and that sort of thing. Sometimes it goes on for too long, and you've got to, as far as I'm concerned, you have got to rein that in. You're in charge of timing, so you need to make sure that that happens. Okay, so 100 experience points to the person who puts the link up first in Twitch or in YouTube. I am in YouTube, ready to activate. You can spend them to ask questions. That's a new thing that I've added in, or you can just level up and have links that are shared. 100 experience points. You can use these experience points however you like. Get out of free. First YouTube video that you should check out, because this is a YouTuber who, he doesn't need bragging rights to say, well, I'm a level 3 this or I'm a level 3 that. So there you are. Right. Any support. He doesn't need any embellishment or promotion from any of us, because he is massive. Runesmith, basically Arbaleths. Basically Arbaleths is the video that he released this week from Runesmith. Really entertaining. I had to chuckle. Yes, there's some lowbrow humor in it, but sometimes that's fun. The information he gave was pretty on point. I liked his insight. I liked what he did in terms of exploring it. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool. As Agnes Boy says, we love Runesmith. Runesmith was a lot of fun to get through that. Nobuanga gets it on YouTube. On Twitch, you guys are going to have to just moderate yourselves. I can't watch them both at the same time. All those links coming through, I'm trying to activate them, so at least your effort to grab them isn't lost. So there we go. When you have some downtime, basically Arbaleths. I love them. I loved it. Arbaleths themselves, it's almost too sci-fi mixing for me as that personally. Another video for you to contemplate. So moving away from Arbaleths, this is a person who I'm super excited to meet. I will be at Gen Con this year, 1st to the 4th of August in Indianapolis. If you can make it, find me. I would love to meet you. I love meeting fans and talking and discussing and learning about your space. It makes us all better. Now, the next one is Seth Skorkowski, Combat 101, 10 tips for better combat. 10 tips for better combat. I was watching this and I was sitting there going, I am not smart enough to play anything. When you watch how simply Seth points out, he's like, oh, stranger, if that's the link, you are straight out the gate. Seth Skorkowski has this calm way of just presenting information, and he's like, so if you do this and you do that, and I need to spend more time with him, then this is going to happen, the entire party is going to die, and boom, that's it, day over. You're like, what? It makes brilliant sense. I will never be able to play at that level. My brain is not wired that way. His NPCs that he does in black and white, I think, is absolutely a hoot. I love what he does there. Yeah, so there we go. It's definitely something to watch. His combat tips are super, super cool. If I ever had players who did that, they would slaughter my monsters. They would just slaughter my encounters, because it's what he does. When you look at it, you go, oh, well, that's pretty obvious. No, it's not. And there's a reason for it. It's technical. It's just great. It's just great. The next one I want to link you to is only of value to you if you are a map maker. So if you're a dungeon master, a game master, and you like making maps, if you are an author and you want maps for your world, I think that this will be of value for you. Dungeon Fog YouTube channel, Project Deos Reveal number 3, World Maps. World Maps. It is the second to last teaser, I think, before the Kickstarter actually launches, where it will be revealed as to the entirety of this project. But needless to say, I've been involved with it from the beginning. I cannot wait for the software to launch. Forget the Kickstarter and all that kind of stuff, because when people realize what this thing will do and what it does, there's no choice to go anywhere else, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not just saying that because Dungeon Fog is a sponsor of the channel, and I'm not saying that because I am very good friends with the owner of Dungeon Fog. I am saying that because I am a dungeon master of 20 years going, that's what I want. And I can say that because in those meetings I was sitting there going, I don't want that, I don't want that, I want that. And Dungeon Fog was going, well, Dungeon Fog, that's what I want. And they listened and they responded. So I think it's going to be super cool. I cannot wait for the software to come out. Are you sure? I'm like, yes, that's what I want. And I ran a poll saying, hey, this is what I want. Yeah, so it's just going to be awesome. I'm nearly going to see it. I'm glad, Angus, that everything I've mentioned is in your recommended YouTube. That's good, I think. I also think that there's not a lot of content creators out there in terms of producing this kind of material. And the ones that are out there, I think it's sometimes polarizing, where you've got all of the YouTube channels like the best build, the best damage dealer, the best spell, the best thing. Those are super critical, those are super important, and they're watched by tens of thousands of people. And then you get the channels like Seth Skorkowski's and mine, where it's like, hey, this is how you do it better in terms of narrative. And yeah, we get our views. I'm not unhappy with the views, but it's just a different mindset, right? Okay, so that's Dungeon Fog. The last one is not a YouTube channel per se, except that it is, but it isn't. Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer. So Hans Zimmer or Hans Zimmer. is a composer of music. He's still alive. He's one of the old guard insofar as in the 80s and in the 90s there were some major names: Jerry Goldsmith, Hans Zimmer, John Williams. And Goldsmith and Williams were even earlier than that. You also had Danny Elfman running around, and there were big names. Hans Zimmer was part of that. He has written the most amazing film music that you can imagine. He writes truly, truly, truly cool stuff. Hans Zimmer now has a YouTube channel. There we go, Jason S. You linked it in there. I hope it's the right one. Nonetheless, you can find his music everywhere. He wrote music for Gladiator. He wrote music for Interstellar. He wrote music for Pirates of the Caribbean. He has a massive repertoire of music, from modern day stuff all the way through to fantasy stuff. So you can really use those soundtracks to inspire you. Now, a lot of people ask me, what do you listen to when you are writing your adventures, or when you're doing maps and that kind of stuff? I am listening to one of these guys. And the reason is that, yes, I could listen to other music that I would normally listen to, which would be classical music or opera. I don't listen to contemporary stuff. But when I'm creating a map, if I'm listening to music that has the genre in mind, that has the tone in mind, I'm more likely to be thinking in that mood. If I'm listening to light and happy, preppy music, and I'm trying to build a dungeon that's full of horror and darkness and evil, something along those lines. So there we go. Those are the 4 YouTube videos to watch this week. There's a disconnect, and it might work for you. But for me, if I'm creating a... have a think, have a listen. If there's anything that you think is worth watching and mentioning, drop it into chat. We can have a look at that. Some last few questions. We've got 15 minutes before the end of today's show. Last few questions. DJ Horrific Dungeon. I listen to music by sort of maybe from the soundtrack of Alien or Aliens. Down Under 757 says, my amazing race setting is Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. The PCs have been tasked with stopping a secret international human supremacist organization, a mix of puzzle, intrigue, and chase/fight. I think that's super cool. I am releasing a video, or have released a video, it's the Web Goblin who actually releases them, on how to do puzzles. We did how to do riddles a couple of weeks, months, years ago. Puzzles was next in the near future. If you watch that video, it should help you with that. Silver Times puzzles, how to do them. You might not necessarily have to worry too much about them. It says, I would love some ship sea encounter inspiration that isn't siren. Cannot go wrong. They've got a wonderful section at the back. Give me a second. /harpies. Ship and sea encounter inspiration. Ghosts of Saltmarsh. You can. So here is the book. I'm showcasing this because you can win this. If you do the treasure map, hunt.com, you can win this. This is the special copy, Mama Saduk's Treasure, that is running on my website. So if you go www.greatgamemaster, but in the back of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, here we go. There is an entire section on creating islands, underwater encounters, above water encounters, just table upon table upon table upon table of encounters: reef sharks, crabs, locanths, harpies, mero, sahaugen, plesiosaurs, objects and water pressure. What happened? So that is creating sandbars, shipwreck contents, whirlpools, open water. If you like these kinds of things, how do you run storms? How much damage do storms do to ships? You cannot go wrong with this book. It is super cool. So yes, definitely something to look at there. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Wall of questions. Goblin pirates. In my homebrew setting for Ghosts of Saltmarsh, the goblins have got one ship called a Junker Colony ship. It's 450 foot-ish, and it's just a floating junk pile that floats around the ocean. It acts like a trading port / pirate port. So there we are. I'm not sure specifically what you're talking about there in terms of character creation. There is, and there we go. Right, next up, any other questions? Dracone says, any plans to do this? Actually, I need to speak to the Web Goblin. On our other channel, which nobody knows about except for the 30,000 subscribers, for video on inspirations for character creation. We have another channel which was supposed to be how to be a great player, and was supposed to run in parallel with the GM channel, and then we decided, anyway, there are a whole bunch of videos there. I think I'm going to move them over. There are a lot there. How to be a great player. We have tons of videos over there. Move over player videos, because a lot of people don't notice them, and there are let's see what the Web Goblin says, because he's ultimately in charge. He has all the power. He's the Goblin. We all know that. Logan Knoll says, I'm making a Sky Island fantasy with steampunk elements, and I'm wondering how to make the nature and creatures feel more alive and vibrant. Interesting. Well, are the creatures steampunk, or is it just the setting that's steampunk? If the creatures are steampunk, perhaps they feed off of to gain height advantage, so they sort of hover over these large lumbering elephants that are busy pumping steam out of their dorsal steam vents. Something along those lines I think could work. Steam vents, and I would imagine you would have birds that use the steam generated by certain animals, and what type of creatures would exist there in terms of how do they get off of that floating island, or are they trapped? Steampunk is always a lot of fun to play with. So if you've got floating islands, think about how floating islands works, and they can't. That would be a very different sort of thing. So think about that. Hero Metzler says, what is your favorite part of preparing a campaign? Suppose would be that initial spark. It's a very tough question. My favorite part, I suppose, where you go, oh, I could do a thing with a thing. For example, the module that my Patreons get this month is a sci-fi module, where I was kind of looking at sci-fi things, and we've been talking about Monster Hunter recently, so I was like, okay, cool, let's do a sci-fi thing where the characters are sci-fi monster hunters. And I thought that was kind of cool. Then I started to write out the adventure. I want to play this with players. So I went to my patrons and I said, right, I'm looking for 4 players. We're going to be playing. And when I finished writing the adventure, I was like, this is such a fun adventure. In that game in about 4 hours. What will be my favorite? That was not what I thought they were going to do. Okay, cool. Let's change it to this. Let's change it to that. Let's do this. Let's tweak that. So there we are. Yeah. So I suppose my favorite part is once the players start to get in and start twisting it up. Tony Butcher asks, in a Star Wars game with 2 other players, we are all for the moment is when the players start to interact with the module, and we have to start adjusting and going, using aliens. Okay. One of the players loves the Empire and keeps acting evil towards the party. In a Star Wars game with 1 other player, we're playing Force using aliens. The asshole and gets mad in real life when we criticize him. Help. I would say you need to rewrite this sentence. Person loves the Empire. That's great. Why do your 2 characters need to stick around with that person? Unless they give is no longer part of the party. To be perfectly honest with you, sure, this person split up, and you as players should say to this person, hey, if we can't work with you a reason to stick around with that alien who loves the Empire, your party should, your character, what's the point of having the character? And if you don't want to change your character, that's great. You can go and find a GM who wants to run an evil campaign. But split up, and you as players should say to this person, hey, if we can't work with, fortunately, that's not the game that we're playing. Ask your fellow players if that's what they feel. If they feel the same way, speak to the GM about it and ask if the GM feels the same way. If all of you feel that this person is disrupting the game, it's time to have a conversation and to say very openly and very honestly, the character doesn't fit within the campaign. Time to roll up a new character. Goodbye, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara. We will see you at another session of board gaming later on. If the player gets prissy and upset about it and goes, no, well, it's you who have to. Unfortunately, when you get to the point where the player is becoming aggressive with the other players, I hate to say it. In the past, I used to try and couch it and try and screw that. We're all getting older. We don't have time to put up with that kind of childishness as far as I'm concerned. If you're playing a character that's disrupting the game, screw you, change the character, fix the game. Anyway, I need to make a t-shirt out of that. Matthew Downs says, when creating prep, I usually fudge the whole encounter, not due to lack of prep, but because I know that there's encounter creatures. How often do you go off script, change stats, or just fudge the whole encounter due to lack of prep? There's no point in prepping. I usually have encounters in my games because I want there to be an encounter. And I want the encounter to have an outcome. The characters are fighting city guards. The outcome that I want is, well, if they get captured, that could be interesting. If they don't get captured, that could be interesting. So I'm going to give the guards basic stats, and then I will stick with those stats throughout the entire combat. On the other hand, if they are having an encounter with crocodile men, because that's what we were talking about, and it's the first step in the beginning of a long adventure series, and I know that if they fail, they're all going to die, most likely those crocodile individuals will not be as strong as they could be or were scripted to be. One of my big challenges with running games on fantasy grounds is that there isn't necessarily that opportunity of having that fudge capacity so quickly because the stats are there. I have discovered workarounds. I am not a simulationist. I don't care if my numbers beat your numbers, which allow you to change that as you need to. So there we go. And I don't want to stress about the fact of, is this encounter balanced? Of course it's balanced. It's make-believe. So it can be as balanced as I need it to be or not. And there's no rule saying that the monster, which has listed as a strength of 18, well, what if it's a weak one? What if they didn't eat their porridge in the morning and they stayed short and didn't grow that extra muscle? So I knew the monster's manual backwards. And so the moment I said this large creature with green skin and tusks in its mouth, I tend to reskin monsters anyway. I used to have players when I was first starting out that would walk up to you, they would go, oh, it's an orc. No, it's not. It's not an orc. It's a new race that I've just invented. They're for the same stats as an orc, but it's not an orc. So I would have to reskin the monsters so the players didn't anticipate and then automatically meta, oh, well, we have to set it on fire because it's a troll, or we have to do this, or we have to do that. Good Old Gamer asks, do you encourage your players to come up with custom backgrounds, feats, etc., or do you have to come up with any custom content yourself for balance? Well, I certainly encourage my players to look at the backgrounds that are available and to use those, but if they want to have their own background, they're welcome to do so. Then they just simply choose a background that they think works in terms of the benefits that they get, the clothing, the equipment, the proficiencies, and so on. But yes, I love my players to come up with their own backgrounds. In terms of feats and things, that I'm a bit more wary of because there's game balance stuff that starts to come into that. So it would need to be a strong and long discussion, interrogating it and asking the other players what they think. So that's usually how I handle it. I'm looking for more questions. I see there's lots of advice coming through. Be creative, yes. Grizzles, bioluminescence. How can it be used? Tattoos, walls, creatures, curses. Are you asking this in real life or are you asking this within the game? Because in the real life, bioluminescent tattoos is a thing. I have heard that that is something that's coming in. And bioluminescence in walls, algae that emanates light and eats plastic. We're having all these weird and wonderful things coming through. But yes, I think bioluminescence is definitely a catch-all. And remember, we're playing usually in worlds where there's lots of fantasy elements. So bioluminescent fungi in real life has a minimal light output. But who's to say that a magically enhanced fungi doesn't give out vast amounts of light? So yes, absolutely, I would do that. A curse, you shall be bioluminescent from now until the day the curse is lifted. I glow in the dark. Well, that's going to be awkward, but it could be fun. Players might not necessarily like that. You can't sneak, you're suddenly taking away a lot of that, but it is a curse, so maybe it should be powerful for a reason. Chance Knight, and I think this is going to be the last question for the day, but Chance Knight says, do you think a Dungeon Master should stay in regular conversation, plotting with their players throughout the campaign? And if so, do you find it difficult to still surprise them or not? Well, I think that the Dungeon Master should be in constant communication with the players, not necessarily about the plot, but in terms of, are you guys having fun? Are there things that I can do to improve? Do you feel that this worked? Do you feel that that worked? Do you feel that we need to do more of this or less of that? I think that's important to look at. I think it's also important to gauge and say, well, what do you guys think is coming up next? And listen to what they say. And like I said, you can sometimes pull little bits out of that and tweak your main story if their ideas are better than yours or more exciting than the ones that you had. But also, yeah, it's an important thing to talk to your players and get their feedback without necessarily losing it. Right, so that's where we are. There are some more questions coming through, but I'm worried that we're going to run out of time if I start answering them. Everyone, please help me remind Guy to call his grandfather. Yes, I just have to figure out where he's staying at the moment, because he lives with my mother or with her sister. I see there's a WhatsApp message here from Mother. It's your grandfather's birthday today. There we go. You see, I told you she was going to remind me. So yes, what is she doing awake at 5 a.m. in the morning? That's the real question. Anyway, my grandfather needs cake, yes, and I should get cake here in Japan to celebrate on his behalf. I thoroughly agree with you for that. And I think I'm going to do so, as a matter of fact. So to those who have subscriptions to the channel, to those who donated during the stream today on Super Chat, I thank all of you. I thank all of you, absolutely all of you, for your contributions to creative writing today. I hope it was fun, it was engaging, it was something a bit different from what we normally do. And I look forward, there we go. Oh, Pikmin Biomaster, thank you for that. We will make sure that he definitely does. At 85, he did a handstand just to prove that he was still up and about. 95, he still drives around the village in his pickup truck. So I think he's going to have an absolute blast today. Anyway. Thank you to all of you, and we will see you either for Ghost of Saltmarsh tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time. 1 p.m. Pacific time, Ghost of Saltmarsh. So there you go. You can certainly join me there. I do a half-hour show beforehand, so 12:30 Pacific time, where I tell you my plans and things. So you can have a look at that. Otherwise, we will see you again next week, Saturday, where I'll be doing the show from the US, and actually on a Friday night. So if there is no show, it's because my brain is still on Japan time, and I'm still thinking that I run the shows on Saturdays. Meanwhile, I'm in the US, where it would actually be on the right day at the right time. Until then, however, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.